Same issue with you.
Here?
Go home.
So,
Eating treats or anything? Yeah, you're fine. I mean, if you're interested to see what
I am.
happens.
okay, we'll call this meeting of the Utah County Planning Commission is called to order on this, the December 17th at 5:31 p.m. And we do have a quorum present. And I hope everyone has signed at the door if you want to participate in our meeting tonight. Let's see. We will open our meeting with a pledge of allegiance. And Commissioner Davis, would you lead us in that tonight?
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Why not?
Thank you. We've got the approval of minutes from our prior meeting, which was October 8th. I think the minutes have been distributed to commissioners. Are there any, is there any discussion or concerns about the minutes? Is there a motion on the table?
Seeing no amendments, I move to accept the minutes as written.
I'll second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. We'll start with Commissioner Davis down here with a vote.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
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 The minutes have been approved and accepted by the commission. And our next item on our agenda is a land use ordinance amendment for the Timpanogos Special Service District. And
If I might, Mr.
Yes.
Chair,
Mhm.
I sit on the board at TSSD, Timpanogos Special Service District, so I don't feel it'd be appropriate for me to be in the discussion. And so I'm going to jump off the diocese and I'll come back and rejoin the meeting
Okay.
after we get there.
that sounds good. We still have a quorum with that. Do we have a report
Sure.
on this one?
Mr. Chair, just some housekeeping items. This item is an ordinance, a land use ordinance amendment. And we have several other land use ordinance amendments following this on the agenda. Each of these require a public hearing. We also have a general plan / zone map amendment application that follows that. The applicant for this first text amendment and our zone map amendment are the same. So you could potentially, especially where we had to have one of our planning commissioners recuse, change the agenda around and hear them both at kind of.
Hear them one
sequence.
together.
Yeah.
Okay.
So just something to kind of maybe expedite.
Should we pause just real quick and ask the commission if they'd like to make that change in our agenda? So that the suggestion is to discuss both the Timpanogos Special District, Service District ordinance amendment and on the next page, the Timpanogos Special Service District Plan and Zone Map Amendment concurrently or one right after the other so that we can get Commissioner back here after. Is that
Works?
works?
Absolutely.
Do we need to vote on a change in the agenda?
Please do.
Yep.
Okay,
Let's do it, be clean, yeah.
I'll
So moved.
moved.
That we
Seconded.
discuss both of those at the same time.
We'll discuss those right up at the top. It's been moved and seconded. We'll start down here on this end on a vote.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we will make that change in the agenda and we'll now go back to you, Bryce.
Okay, yes, we do actually have a presentation. Greg Robinson of our staff will present that.
Okay.
Good evening. This item is before you, Timpanoa Special Service District operates a wastewater facility. They have their facility in near American Fork. It's in the county. It was been a facility and received a Board of Adjustment approval, I believe, in 1996 is when we first approved that facility. This change is requested because Timpanoa Special Service District wants to be able to store and sell the biosolids that come from that plant in an area out by Alberta, and they are looking to amend our ordinance to allow that. Our ordinance doesn't currently contemplate that. The area that they're looking to put this in is in the currently in the MNG1 zone. It's kind of by the Bayview landfill. This change will affect all of the PF zone, which we don't have a significant amount of PF zone, which is a public facility zone. The adjustments that they want to make have been discussed both. They submitted a request, staff reviewed it, and we had comments, and we went back and forth with TSSD, and we've come to an agreement on kind of the language that is being proposed for the change, and that would be reflected in the paper that I gave you also on the screen. It adds a definition of biosolids and then allows that use in the PF zone. And just to kind of go over some of the changes, just to be clear, it adds the handling, storage, and sales of biosolids subject to the following things. So the first two items, the facility must be owned and operated by a governmental entity on land that's owned by the governmental entity. And biosolid materials must originate from a sewage treatment facility that is both owned and operated by the governmental entity. Those two have to be met in order for the handling of biosolids, and then in order to be able to store and sell biosolids, all three of those conditions would have to be met, meaning that the storage and sale of biosolids are prohibited within 1 mile of a municipality that is in existence at the time that the storage and sales of biosolids is established. Meaning that if they establish this use on a parcel, that they can maintain that use even if a city is expanded within 1 mile of that. But if they want to create this use near a city, they can't. It wouldn't be allowed within 1 mile of the city, the existing city boundary. And then it kind of identifies how that measurement is taken in the rest of that. This is the public facility is sufficiently restrictive and usually doesn't kind of is made for these types of uses. Staff supports the change. I think this is in the location that they're looking to do this in, based on the next agenda item, the zone map amendment is an appropriate place based on kind of the requirements that they're looking to meet and the locations that they're looking to find customers for these biosolids. So the applicant is here, and if you have questions about the specifics about what they are doing and what kind of the operation of that, you can probably address those to them. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
I have a question.
Yes,
Actually, a couple questions. Question number one would be, are there any standards or requirements somewhere in ordinance that would require the facility to mitigate odors if the city was to come within that mile and encroach on the facility? Where at the mile range, okay, actually you can smell a mile range, but what kind of things we have in place for that?
Currently, there are not restrictions on that type of use or the storage and sale of biosolids in order to mitigate those smells or odors. Generally, And they probably are probably better at addressing this. I think that the facility they want to develop kind of takes care of some of those issues with the way they are planning to store those. And so I probably, currently, it doesn't contemplate any of those in our ordinance. If you have questions about or want to include anything like that, we'd probably have to discuss what those might be. But I'd probably recommend that you hear from the applicant about some of those too, so.
Do you see those sort of standards elsewhere?
For this use and with the anticipation that we are not going to probably see a facility like this anywhere else in the county, I don't know that it would be necessary with the remoteness of the location, and also because it's not located too far away from the landfill. So there probably isn't, in this case, a necessity to do that. There are other places that have instigated those, and TSSD can probably talk about some of the issues that they've had with their current facility and kind of what they've had to deal with and the mitigation measures that they have in place. Generally, this is a location that they're looking at that we're probably not going to have a lot of people around it to complain about the odor.
But at other places within the zone where it would be permitted use, we could see that.
It's
Is
true,
that
yes. If that is the desire, there's also at this time, there isn't enough public facility zone out there that would probably be developed, and they would be required to come and ask for a rezone. And that's something that you can consider in the rezone of a property in order to kind of determine whether it's an appropriate location. And if it is an appropriate location and you feel like there would be a necessity to have some mitigation measures in place for odor, we could make those changes at that time as well.
Okay. Different question. Why do we specify that it needs to be owned and operated by a governmental entity? Is there reasoning for that?
The reason that we wanted to have that in place is mainly because we wanted it to be restricted in the number of requests and applicants that we would get, so that it's really limited in where it would be and how many locations or facilities might develop from this. It's mainly in anticipation that the number of applicants we're going to get for something like this would be very limited based on that. Is it necessary? It may not be, but I think it just allows us to be more restrictive at first, and then if we feel like it needs to be expanded, if we have an applicant that comes and wants to do that, I think it allows us the ability to review that at the time somebody else comes in and wants to do that type of facility.
Mr. Chair, this is Bryce with staff. I'd just like to add to that comment. That's also consistent with the intent of the public facility zone. That zone is designed to service the locations for public type of facilities that are generally owned by governmental entities. And so it's consistent with some of the other uses that are spelled out in the PF zone.
Okay. Thanks.
And while I'm talking, one quick minor adjustment to the text, specifically line 14 says the handling, storage, and sales of biosolids. We'd probably recommend that ARE is struck. So it would just say the handling, storage, and sales of biosolids subject to all the following. That's consistent with how we use wording on our rest of our uses in the zone. So just kind of a grammatical consistency. So if any recommendation for this, we would recommend that
You'd
wording be
recommend
used.
to strike the word "are"?
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any other questions
Let's hear.
or
Greg, currently, is there a place where they sell this stuff now?
No.
Not that I'm aware of. I don't know that they have the facility they operate currently. I don't know that they sell that, a store or sell that at that facility.
So, and are you aware of any place else in the county, any other cities or entities that?
No,
Do this.
as far as unincorporated areas, there isn't any use that we have that would allow that. So they don't have any other facilities that would manage that. I don't know what currently is done with the biosolids, so another question that the applicant probably can answer better than I can, so.
So as I understand it, this public facility zone currently, or is, they're talking about out in the Alberta area, and
Correct.
did I understand you correct, that there is not a public facility zone out there currently?
Currently, no, that is the subject of the next
Okay,
application. So
very good.
again, as a good reminder, we're talking about, and it was alluded to with a comment earlier, that this would potentially be a use that would be allowed anywhere that's zoned public facilities. I believe we only have 2 locations in the county right now. One would be their a sewage treatment facility location in the Pleasant Grove, Linden area. And then we also have at least one remnant zone designation in the Springville area west of the transfer station. I believe both of those are within 1 mile of the city, of an existing city limit. So neither of those locations would be able to accommodate this use.
Oh, they would be able to?
They would not.
Would not,
They
okay. That's what
But
I-
potentially where the desired use, as I understand it, would be at this location out by the Bayview landfill, which would be able to meet that setback requirement, distance requirement.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Do we want to hear from the applicant?
Always.
Yes, if you're willing or want to address the commission?
Looks like you may have one more
I
question.
just have a quick,
Oh, yes.
quick question.
Sorry.
I'm assuming there's a definition for governmental entity in the ordinance somewhere?
No.
We do not. That's a term that already exists previously existed in the ordinance.
Okay, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's in there.
Yeah, we don't define it, but it's a use that's already deemed in, or a term that's already deemed as part of other uses.
Okay.
My name is Richard Mickelson. I'm the district manager for Timpanogos Special Service District. I believe one of the council members, are you council members or commissioners? I don't know.
Commissioners.
Commissioners asked, is this sold somewhere else in the county? And currently biosolids are used from the farmers in the area now. And so we were just trying to provide a location, because right now what they do is they store it on their property and then they disperse it twice a year. And so other biosolids are placed on their properties, on the farmers' properties, and then dispersed. And then what we would like to do is put that out there for them, and then when they want it and request it, then we could do the same thing, disperse it to the farmers as needed. That's the intent. Did that answer one of the commissioner's questions? Is it being put out on the farmers' fields? And the answer is yes. And I think you had a question about odors. We've been very sensitive at TSSD. You may drive by our plant right now, and occasionally you can smell the odors from the freeway. We've been very hypersensitive to try to, through our plant upgrades, which we came to the commissioners previously to get some height rezoning or clearance to be able to add some anaerobic digesters that will break down these biosolids even more, and then we're add them to another process. Well, every process removes odors, and as we capture those odors, then we can use, for example, the breakdown gas is methane gas, as you can suppose, and we're going to clean that up and re-inject that into the gas line to have renewable natural gas that can be used back into the grid. And along with that comes odors, so we'll capture those, scrub those, and clean those as well. And then the biosolids that we are planning to take out to this site that we're developing will be hyper removed odors, if you want to call it that. So when you pick it up, it's kind of like a compost. It's not going to have that stinky odor. So those are the compost. I mean, that's the type of product that we'll be putting out there. And previously, we used to sell compost at our facility, but that through lawsuits and litigation, we had to cease that. And so we don't do that anymore. But that was once a highly desired product, both for people to bring their green waste and then us turning it into a compost and then selling it back to the public. So we're trying to do a renewable, ongoing type of product that could be useful. That's our intent and our hope. So.
What does, I noticed the language here talks about testing and meeting state and federal standards. What does that look like, or what? Tell me about some of the standards.
Currently, our biosolids are they're called unclassified, and according to the waste treatment process, as you can imagine, we have lots of regulations and permits that we have to comply to from the federal EPA, which has delegated their responsibility over to the state EPA, and we're regulated underneath the Division of Water Quality. So they monitor our biosolids and our water that goes into the lake and so forth. So there's a 503C regulation that the federal requirements that everybody looks to. And so our intent is to put a Class A biosolids out there, which is a unregulated biosolids. In other words, we've met all the requirements. You can put that biosolids on anything and not be required to track and know exactly where everything is going. So that's the best clean quality fertilizer / amendment / product that can be distributed back to the public. Now there's some emerging concerns on things, but I don't know if you've heard of the PFAS or the forever chemicals that you may have seen in the news a lot. We've tested our biosolids, and we don't have large amounts or even barely detectable amounts on some things. So that actually are not the PFAS or the PFOA. So it's not the stuff you're hearing in other parts of the country. Our biosolids, if you want to call it, are clean. That's what we're seeing from our testing. And we're hopeful that the farmers will continue to take that and put it on their crops. They're seeing a huge amendment of the cost of phosphorus, nutrients that are needed for plant growth. Costs are rising, and then they can see it as a beneficial fertilizer for their crops that they're trying to grow out there. So, and then the next class down, which takes less measurements, are Class B, and then our currently is unclassified because we don't have all the units and operations in place to hit all these different levels. As we obtain those and bring online these new projects, then we will meet those testings for each of those different unit operations, such as temperature and volatile organic compounds that are reduced. And the amount that we're going to be spending on this is upwards of the $700 million range that we'll be doing to put these processes in place. And along with that comes testing to confirm that we've met those criteria as we're going out to the site to put them out there. So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, thank you.
Thank you for consideration.
Now we do need to open a public hearing before we act on this question that's on here. So
I'll move that we open a public hearing.
it's moved and seconded to open the public hearing. We'll start down here with Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
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 Okay, we are now in a public hearing session. Are there any from the crowd here that would like to address the commission? Just come forward and state your name and
I'm Jadine Stedman, and we own the property there. In fact, we used to own that property. My question is, you've got 2 homes there that are right there. What about those people? I mean, it's there, they're right there, and they've got to live with it. It's across the street. They're within a half a block at that, okay? The other thing I ask, how many loads of this stuff is going to be coming in every day, all the time? And the other question I have is, we were pushed into having that landfill out there, and we fought it for years that it came in. Why can't we, with this waste treatment, why can't that be on the landfill so it's all in one spot? Why does it have to come a section over, away from the landfill? And what about the people in between? I just don't think that's right. And I think you could find a more rural place than right in where those people live. And you've already got a stinky place to start with. Why can't it be right there?
So let me ask you, do you live there still?
No.
You don't. You're not there now.
No.
And just sorry, I was curious to know that. So that's
But there's people, but there's guys that
still
work
people
out there
there,
at the
sure.
gas plant. At the gas plant, they work there all day. You know, they're going to be there, and that's not that far away. So I understand them piping that into the methane gas. Okay, because we had the lease with them. But could they do that on the landfill and still pump it over and get into the methane gas?
So I guess just to follow on to that, so you're not there, and I know there's some homes there, but that seems to be on the next item we're going to discuss, because that'd be on the map,
Right,
on the
right.
change to the map. In this case, it's a question right now. We're talking about the question of whether we should allow an ordinance where there could be this kind of storage facility
Yeah.
permitted.
But the other question I want to know, though, is how many loads of that stuff
Yeah.
would they be bringing? That's a lot. That's a lot of crap they're bringing out there. Literally, you know.
It sounds like it's right now. It's in the future because we don't have all the.
Well, I may be
all
dead.
the-
You're right. You know.
Well, we might all be, but it is. But we don't have the refinement machinery out there yet. So this is so that they can start down that road of building those facilities to do the refinement, so it can meet the grade A that you're planning to hit, right, and the testing requirements. I don't know if maybe you could answer how often are we delivering and trucking and do you know?
So there's 2 things. The answer
Could you come up to the mic? We've got to record the
Appreciate
meeting.
that.
Thank
If
you.
Come up, yep.
So currently, we do 5,000 dry metric tons a year. So divide that out, and that comes out to the amount that we would currently be hauling right now. So
You said 5,000 metric tons? And so truckloads,
one truckload a day, about 30,000? I mean, 30 tons. So one truck a day at 30 tons, 5 days a week. The other question, I should have brought a bottle with these dried solids that the plant north of us generates those. So, and then I could open that bottle and shove it around, share it around, and you can smell or the lack of the odor that comes from that. Just
that's if it's refined to the level that you.
that is correct. It's would come from the similar process that we would be doing. So. So if you want to delay and wait a month, I can bring that and people could smell it. It doesn't smell like perfume, but it's not the odor that you're accustomed to smelling from biosolids.
Question, what is being hauled out there exactly? That's not the processed material.
It is the processed dry
It's
solids.
the final material.
That is correct.
Okay. And didn't Provo City have a similar operation years ago by their landfill down here in the south end of Provo?
I know that Provo's system has an anaerobic digester as well, and that's what we're installing, which we don't have, which is a better system than ours, which doesn't have that right now, and that's what we're installing. Their solids that come off those anaerobic digesters is the Class B solids. It's still wet, and it still has an odor to it, and granted, not as bad as my current solids, which is the unclassified, which is frankly very foul. And so that's what I currently put out there. Class B has reduced those volatile organic compounds that has a lot of that odor as well. But then our next level, that's what we're going to be doing, is the Class A biosolids.
And the Class A is what's going to be trucked out to
That
this
is correct.
property. And how is it stored? Is it just out in rows in the field? Is
I'm
it-
waiting for that to come from the engineers, but my previous thought is, you know how you see how they put tarps over piles, and then they put the tires on top of it to protect it. That's one
Like the
potential.
silage.
Like the silage pits,
Oh, okay.
exactly. So it'd be something similar to that. I'm also told that the biosolids themselves, since they're dry, when they get out there, they could potentially be left, and then rain would come and could create crust on top. So that's another option as well. Again, we have been putting significant amount of effort in our current plant upgrade to be able to put some of the state-of-the-art odor control systems in place. Again, I don't think that this place will have that odor that's perceived by others, and that's why it would be nice for them to smell that within a bottle, because it's not the Class B, and definitely not the unclassified material. That if I even lived within a couple of miles, I wouldn't want to be close to that smell. It's rank. It is bad. I must just flat out say that. So, any other questions?
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yep.
So is there, so it seems like there's going to be some homes that are nearby. Can you kind of describe that scenario a little bit? We don't have a map. And is there a better location so you're not impacting people close by? And why can't it be closer, like she said, to the solid waste facility?
Those, when the farmers want to have fertilizer on their field, I guess that's, part of storage and dispersing of the fertilizer for the need of the farmer. I guess in the future, if there's no farmers, there's no need for fertilizer.
No, but my question was, is there another place that would not be so close to?
I guess you can see on the screen there where the location of it is. And then the landfill, if you could kind of show where the landfill is.
Oh, sorry, go back to that one you were on.
So,
So,
go ahead. If you can
Sorry.
show there.
maybe pull up the parcel.
While they're doing that, just to Mr. Chair's point, this first appeal is just the text amendment to allow this as a use in the PC zone, wherever that PC zone is applied. Then the specific location, the appropriateness of that zone will be determined in the next appeal, or the next application.
If I did the math correctly, your 5,000 metric tons comes to about, at 30,000 pounds a truckload, that comes to about 367 loads.
So one a day.
Yeah.
That's good math.
Of Class A material.
That is correct.
Okay, any other questions?
Commissioner, you asked, is there a better location?
Well, it seems like we can take care of that the second.
The next
yeah,
part.
yeah.
Skull Valley.
So that's the image, the little parcel that comes, or the part of the parcel that comes up to SR 68, that is the start of the measurement, and then it is roughly about 1 mile to the landfill location. And
I
also,
am too.
the houses that are
Turn off my hearing
in there,
aids.
there's houses to the parcels to the north of that road. The nearest house after those is about 3 miles away.
There's two right there.
Yeah, 300 feet, there was, like I said, there's two of them.
Old house and the other house.
I understand,
Or
yeah.
the house we built across the street.
Right, as I said, there's houses across the street, and then the next one is 3 miles away. And those are on parcels on the Bateman Dairy.
Yeah.
Greg, could you speak up just a little bit for us hearing
Sure.
impaired, please?
So there, to the north of that site, there are two houses that are about roughly 300 feet away. The next nearest dwelling is 3 miles away, and that would be north to the Bateman farm.
Five now it is.
And then, and how far away from the landfill?
1 mile.
Just the one, okay, that was the.
And that's
the
to the
5,000 feet.
That's along the road. There, if I measured from other parts of the parcel, it'd be closer than that.
Okay, thank you.
Just to kind of rein it back into the PF zone discussion, I've pulled up the current PF section of our ordinance, public facility zone, that kind of shows you the type of uses that are allowed in this zone, and including the conditional uses. If you wanted to just know the compatibility potentially of adding this use to what's already allowed there, that might be helpful in this discussion.
Any other questions anyone else want to address the commission from the?
Why did you pick that?
You need to, if you want to make public comment, you need to come to the mic and address.
And again, that might be a question that might be more
Yeah.
pertinent to the next
Yeah,
appeal,
it's gonna
but
be more-
it's a public hearing, so I
Yeah.
guess you can.
Let me just make sure that the public understands. We've got two issues, and we're just going to do one right after the other. They're both related to this same thing. The first is an amendment change that would allow this type of use in that zone, in a particular zone, okay? Then the second thing we're going to consider is a change in the map that would rezone that area that they've asked for to this new permitted use, okay? So we haven't got to the second item yet, which is the question of where, okay? What we're talking about right now is, can they use it in this way? So if you have a question or a comment about, can we use it in this way, please come and address the commission. Okay? I don't see anyone that wants to come. Is there further debate from the commission? Is there a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion.
Commissioner?
Glenn Roberts speaking, and I make a motion that the Planning Commission recommend approval of proposed text amendments to Section 12.56 of the Utah County Land Use Ordinance with modifications as specified in the staff report, along with any applicable renumbering and reformatting in each section based on the findings specified in the staff report under Section Roman numeral 5, and add that we also want to note that the word ARE in 12.56B14 be deleted.
I'll second.
Just a clarification, did that capture the definition for biosolid also?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, including the definition of biosolids, yes.
My second covers that too.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to to accept the language that we see here with the one change of the word "are" on line 14 there to be struck out, striked. Is since been moved and seconded, we'll go to a vote. We'll start down here with Commissioner Davis.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay. So we now have a recommendation. By the way, this is a recommendation that goes to the Utah County Commission from the Utah County Planning Commission. That's our body. So this is just a recommendation that now goes to them. They now reconsider it with our recommendation, and generally they've taken it from there in a positive way. So it sounds like considering now this to be the recommendation, now we will consider a map change where we'll consider a location where this new permitted use could be deployed. So do we have a report?
Yep, so just to give you an idea, so the zoning that is currently there is the RA5 and the M&G1 zone. The zoning that is proposed and the applicant has applied for is the PF zone, as we've already discussed. Just to give you an idea of the general plan land use designation, currently would be an agricultural area. The proposed change would make it a manufacturing area based on our general plan land use designations. Just a couple of other items. The SR 92 is designated as an arterial, meaning there are certain road classifications and widths that would be applied to that. And Chimney Rock Pass, currently unpaved, is a collector. The total acreage that we're talking about is roughly about 48 acres, and it is not included in any city's annexation policy plan. It is not near any city borders currently. The site that we're looking at is shown here. You can see that the current zoning is generally M&G1. The properties to the north have had some agricultural uses associated with them. As we've discussed earlier, there are a couple of houses close to this site, and then there are two houses. The remaining houses are either south to the Alberta area, which you can see some roads south of there, and also north to the Bateman Farm, which is about 3 miles away. The site is requested by the applicant to be rezoned in order to do the biosolids as we've discussed. The area that we're talking about as, while there are houses in this area, it is not densely populated as we would generally see next to a city. The uses that were contemplated, I think, are most staff feels is mostly appropriate for this area. Yes, there are houses close, and unfortunately, I wish that there were ways that we could get farther away, but this is the area that the applicant has applied for, and we feel like it meets the general uses of a PF zone and the intent of the PF zone. So those kind of are those are the items that you're looking at. If you have questions for me, I'm happy to answer those as before the applicant is here to answer those questions you might have that would be more appropriately addressed to them.
I would just add one comment that as with any rezone, I know we're talking about a certain use, but it should contemplate any use that is allowed in the PF zone to potentially be applied to this location. So just kind of keep that in mind.
Can you bring that list up again? You had that up a minute ago, right?
Sure, the PF zone.
The other uses.
So this is the current public facilities zone. Section B contains all of the permitted uses. A lot of them are just typical agricultural uses. And then there's some other uses, and then also our, is that, how come it's not showing on, oh, I need to leave my, yeah.
Escape. There we go.
Sorry. So yeah, this subsection B contains the permitted uses that are currently allowed. There's been a recommendation to add a 14, which we just discussed. Has not been acted upon, but it has been recommended to be added to that. And then also a couple conditional uses, including a sewage treatment plant similar to the facility where the applicant would be transporting these materials from.
And so that C is conditional uses, but this would be, what we just recommended would be a, not a condition, is it a condition? It's not a, it's a permitted use.
Permitted use.
Yeah, permitted use.
Quick clarification on that. Both of them are considered to be allowed in the zone and should be granted approval if they meet all applicable requirements. The difference is a conditional use goes through a little more robust process that is in a public setting, and potential mitigation, mitigating conditions could be applied, or conditions could be applied that mitigate any negative consequences that, there's some statute that need to be met on when you apply those type of conditions. That's a difference.
So they can pasture domestic livestock. So in the sorry, it's called public facilities.
Yes.
They can pasture livestock. They can produce crops. They can store and keep products, machinery. They can do oil and gas, water wells, windmills. Just looking through here. Okay.
You'll notice there is
Composting, they can do composting, number 11.
Yes, that was, not to give you too much backstory on this, but that was added when this zone was created to facilitate some of the current uses in our two locations of our public facilities zone. There was discussion about allowing some type of composting, storage, and it was very clear at the time that this zone would only allow for the green waste, with some concerns of some of the proximity to the existing development that of the location of their sewage plant. So that's why we had some of the language recommended by staff to have that mile buffer that would eliminate that location in Pleasant Grove, Linden.
Okay.
And so that's kind of some history on why that requirement was put in.
Okay.
Greg, I have a question. Assuming where this zone change is so close to these homes that they were notified that this was going to happen.
They were, yes. Notices went out to all adjacent property owners and they were included.
Okay, and then I have a question for the manager here, if I may. Currently, you are providing this product to farmers and storing it on
Currently,
their...
we are not. Others' facilities are.
Other facilities are. Okay, so not here in the county that you're aware of, that there are other entities that are providing this product to farmers.
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Greg, can you zoom out? I'd like to just get a feel for what's going on around this proposed zone area. I know there's a big old dairy farm out there not too far away, and then where's the landfill in relationship to this?
Okay, I'll try and navigate this. So here's the subject property. Here is the Bayview landfill. I think we determined that was approximately 1 mile.
Yes.
Some other existing agricultural operations, north and south. The Alberta Crossroads is probably 4 or 5 miles to the south.
Down there, yeah.
Ish. Anyway, our computer's slow loading that, but hopefully that gives you a little context.
this landfill, was it there before the homes or the homes before the landfill?
I don't know the exact dates of which homes were built when.
Around 1970.
There you go.
The homes?
Around 1980. And I fought it for years on the landfill. So it was around 1980 that they
We built that
first went
home.
out there.
We'll need to have any comments into the mic because this is a recorded meeting. So if it's okay, I mean, you were asked the question. So anyway, if there's some comments, please come to the mic and so we can catch those on the recording. But it sounds like there were some homes built in the late 70s, early 80s. I think the landfill went through an approval process shortly after that.
But the neighboring owners got notice, they have to get notice of this.
They did, yes. All adjacent property owners, by our ordinance, are required to be noticed 10 days prior to the meeting. We sent those out, and we didn't get any of those returned except for the Utah State Department or something like that.
Any response from the property owners received by your department?
We did not get any comment that anybody called in, but we do have people who have showed up, so hopefully that.
So Stedman, right? Would you, yeah, I have some questions. Maybe you could help us understand your concerns.
While she's coming up, again, this was an applicant-driven proposal, so it may be, I don't know if the applicant has anything additional they would like to add to this request, the zone
yeah,
map
we
request.
sure
so
can.
Give them that opportunity.
I just, so on, you mentioned you fought the landfill.
Yeah, I
What,
did.
what was the impact of the landfill?
Well, at first, the Board of it, they said, they wouldn't let it go out there. And so we thought everything was nice. Well, then they pushed it, and then they just pushed it down your throat. And I know the church and several of us fought it a few years later, and we kept fighting it, but it was just like, it didn't matter. It was there. They said everything would be covered. There wouldn't be any garbage. That's not true. They put in a 40-height big fence. So, you got the plastic blowing all over. And to me, we've got a lease so that cleans that methane gas on our property that's right along the fence line with that landfill. And so that gets piped in. So why are they putting something that's almost a mile away from that?
A couple miles.
Yeah. It would seem to me they would want to be over somewhere closer, like with the landfill, so you could still use that pipe that comes through that ground to go into it. If this is a public facility like the landfill is. The other thing is, we have our ground lease. Yeah, we have some cattle there, but we're also got solar coming in the next year or so. They'll start grading all of that, and that'll all be taken care of. That'll all be in solar. So yeah, I've got issues with it. I think it could be in another spot that isn't going to be right on the corner of the county road and the state road. I mean, I know it's convenient that way, but if it's by the landfill or up above the landfill, because they've got all that state ground, if it's part of that kind of a facility, why they can't keep it all in that land lease?
Okay.
Sorry.
Anything else? Anyone from her? Okay, thank you.
Kyle?
That's it.
He
Okay,
said, why did they choose, yeah, he wanted to know why you chose that particular spot.
okay. We'll ask the applicant, maybe they can explain why they have asked for this particular area to be rezoned.
We looked for property that was close to the farmers. We looked for property that close to the landfill. There's already odor there. Although we don't anticipate our product is going to be odorous. So that property, we looked for probably 2 years to purchase property, and that property was available and met that criteria, so we purchased it. The question of, or maybe be clear that this biosolids does not have any more easily obtained gas to come from it. So it doesn't produce gas. It is, it's already gone through that process. That's why it's a Class A biosolids. The solids have been broken down, the gas has been pulled off, that gas is being injected at the plant site here in northern Utah County. The biosolids are essentially deplete of those odorous compounds that you would normally smell. And that's why it would have been advantageous for you to take a jar of this, open it up and smell it, and you would see that odor is not there. So anyway, that's why we purchased the property. It was close to the farmers, and that's why we did that.
And with this definition that we just approved, you would not be able to transport the biosolids in a previous state of processing where it did have those odors was less treated.
I'm not sure, I don't know if I agree, because we just read that they can do composting if we approve this zone change. They can do composting
Right.
there, right? So they,
But he was talking about, with the sewage treatment process, you have the raw sewage that comes in, you put it through the digesters and through different processes, you're pulling off the methane, and then you're getting to this point where you have something that's more solid and dry and, as you said, less odorous. And with the definition of biosolid that we have approved, that only applies to the product that you're describing and
That
no
we're
other
bringing
product
out
of
there.
a previous nature of
That is
processing.
correct.
It actually does not, the product that they're bringing out there is intended to be Class A biosolid. This has just a biosolid definition. It doesn't specify what class in the changes that we made. The second point about composting was only green waste, so they wouldn't be able to compost.
green
this
waste
material.
composting,
So-
yeah.
It's very different. So the Class B or the unclassified that we talked about earlier could or could not be at the
Based on the
facility.
changes, it was not restricted to Class A, so it would be allowed.
Okay, and the B and the unclassified were the ones that did have odor?
Yes, they do.
Okay. Well, maybe we should recommend that that definition be changed to only have Class A.
So what we're saying is that something other than a Class A material can be used on soil, which I call it dirt until it is used on it, and then we turn it to soil. But once we create the soil, then we can only, the state and federal standards allow something less than the Class A material to be spread on the land.
That is correct.
Interesting.
And there are requirements according to those different biosolids.
So why do you go through the process of creating Class A? That sounds very expensive. If you
It
can put
is.
Class B or even C material out on the land,
It is. And the reason why we're going to this expense is multifaceted. One of them is odors has been a big issue for Timpanogos. And as people have moved in closer and closer to our plant, they have noticed that we stink. And so we are spending extra amount of money to capture that odor, scrub it, and clean it. And in that process is our board has not gone through this process lightly because it does going to cost us a lot of money. But at the end, this Class A biosolids has minimal tracking after that because it's met clean and can be used even on vegetable gardens.
so what I'm hearing is that where you're creating the material, the reality is you're not being governmentally forced to do it, but to be a good neighbor,
That is
you're being
correct.
forced to do that, or you want to do
We're
it.
choosing to do that. That's
Choosing to
correct.
do that rather than fight all that's going on.
That is correct.
And that's going to be what you do, practically speaking, because to avoid further conflict with the neighbors.
That is correct. That's our intention, is to be a good neighbor. Although it doesn't seem that way sometimes, but we try to. Any other questions?
Public facility zones of the past, Bryce, which you mentioned there's not very few of them. Were they near RA5 zones? Were they were RA5 at the time we made them? Were they near homes?
I'm trying to think here. I think I can capture that fairly accurately. I think prior to this request, the only two designations we've had have been the existing location of the TSSD facility in Pleasant Grove and Linden. And then there was also a location in Springville, west of Springville, out in the unincorporated area that was RA5, traditionally agricultural, that was potentially going to be utilized as a moving the transfer station location. I think that kind of fell apart, but that was kind of what was necessitating that application of this zone in that area, and also potentially a location for a sewage treatment facility that would serve South County. I think there were and potentially a water plant. So there was some intended uses that were associated with those requests.
So was the West Springville one, the most recent one?
I believe so, yeah.
And when was that? Do you know?
Probably 2008-ish.
About 8?
Yeah, 15 years ago or so.
As far as when that was being explored?
Yeah, yeah. So,
sounds about right.
so we've had several of these PF zones sitting out there, and that's why I brought up you need to contemplate any type of
Right.
use, because once that zone's applied, then any property owner is entitled to those underlying permitted uses. So, sometimes plans don't always.
But
Work
the
out.
only parcel that's at issue here is the parcel that's going to be
Absolutely.
used.
Absolutely. The subject of the matter we're hearing now is whether or not this 40 acres should be rezoned to the PF zone from the RA5 and mountain grazing. Yeah.
Correct. Mainly the MNG1 zone, there's a little sliver of RA5.
I have another question for the applicant, just to make sure you get enough exercise tonight. How much of this 40 acres is actually going to be covered by this Class A material?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because the intent is you're bringing in one truckload a day, so 30,000 pounds of material.
Twice a year applications, that's what I anticipate.
And then the farmers pull all of it or some of it off and on their fields.
Well, do you have a number for that?
Hi, I'm Wade with Aqua Engineering, helping TSSD with this project. The benefit of Class A biosolids is it's dry, just like a regular fertilizer. You can apply that at multiple times throughout the year, and so you can do a top dressing throughout the year and not have the constraints of odors and having to be integrated into the soil, much like Class B
But the
biosolids.
40 acres, I don't foresee that this is going to be covered with that material. Are you
Agreed.
put them in windrows? Is that how you store it and then you cover it?
Whether it's in piles or rows, we anticipate no more than 5 acres worth of product would be used or stored there. And that's based on the idea that if farmers only spread twice a year, when they break open a field and when they, at the end of this.
So why the 40
season,
acres?
That's what was available.
They wouldn't sell you less.
That's correct. And so these two parcels were brought together for that. And so there would be room for a structure there for an office and a shop, and then for that ground to be available for that storage. But the full 40 acres, 48 acres necessarily would not be needed for stockpile or for storage of these nutrients.
Roughly 5 acres, you think?
That is understood. And that provides about a 9-month stockpile, provided that the other 3 months there would be when they were being applied.
Which dust is created when you're moving that material?
So this product's actually, when it's dried, it kind of creates a pellet or kind of almost like a dry Cheeto. And being that it's densified that way, there's not a whole lot of excess dust. Some commissioners don't ever look at Cheetos the same way.
Those are
But
not
it's
Lincoln
a great product
I've used
for
it
that.
before, I know what it is,
Yeah.
just not in big piles.
And there are other biosolids on them readily available. Mill Organite is the one that's nationally provided out there. It's bagged, sold at Home Depots, Lowe's out there. That is the same product, just in a different form than what this will be. This will not be quite as refined as a pellet per se, but it's the same product. So,
Wade, could we get your last name for the record?
Wade Stinson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, is there anyone else who would like to speak? Please come to the mic.
My name is Alan Stedman. We own a lot of 6,000 acres out there. My question is, he says he's going to help all the farmers. There's only 2 farmers out there, the church and Bateman's. Is that who you're planning on?
They're the farmers.
The 2? There's only 2 out there. Have you talked to them? Are they willing to buy it? What, the church and Bateman's?
Mr.
Yeah,
Chair, we should probably
I
have
think-
him address the planning
Yeah,
commission, and then you could.
Your comments need to be addressed to the commission,
Oh,
Mr. Stedman, so.
No, there's
I-
only 2
There's only 2 farmers.
farmers, Bateman's and
Right,
church, and then we were in the back on cattle.
thank you. Okay. Is there anyone else? Okay, one more time.
I'm sorry. So, Jadine again, bugging you. If they've got 48 acres and they're only gonna use 5, is there plans down the road to put a treatment plant out there? Down the road? Would they be able to do that?
The answer is if we rezone it to this public facility, they can do any of the things on that list that we looked at, including this one that we've recommended, assuming that the county commission takes our recommendation and passes that as an ordinance.
And so how many acres does it take to facilitate a treatment plant?
I did.
Anybody know?
I have a question for you. I have a question, yeah. What's your biggest concern?
The smell, all the trucks going on the road like we have with the landfill. That county road, it will be paved eventually. It's not gonna be that far away. Just in general, the stench.
So it sounds like it seems like there's not going to be. He's assured us that there won't be
But the ordinance doesn't limit it to the Class A. He said that.
Yeah, and
So
so,
is that-
and
is
so
that-
they could put in a treatment plant, and then you're gonna have that and the landfill.
Is that the part that concerns you?
Yeah,
That it's kind of like they said the landfill was going to be, there wasn't going to be trash, and now there's trash, overflowing and.
well, I have to say, it's not as bad. Since they put up the fence, it's helped a lot, but you still get on those really bad days, you're gonna get crap blowing around.
Bryce, could you bring up that list of uses for
yeah.
the public facility again, just while we're considering this? So livestock. Is there a sewage treatment? I see green waste down there at the bottom, but then down there as a permitted conditional use, water or sewage treatment plant is possible. So I think the main thing is, well, we understand what you're saying you will use the land for. If we agree to push this recommendation to the county commission to make this map change, any of these uses could be deployed on that property.
Can you remind me, are there any conditions under which a permitted conditional use would be denied rather than they're pretty much a thing that just goes forward most of the time?
Very rarely. Yeah,
Yeah.
you'd have to show that any inherent, I don't know the exact terminology, but that would be a significant detrimental effect cannot be mitigated. And you'd be hard pressed to find something that couldn't be mitigated. I mean, you can have some pretty rigorous conditions to mitigate smells and glares and lights and noises, the type of things that maybe could be argued that have a detrimental effect.
I know we already have passed the first part of our discussion here with the 1 mile requirement. In our consideration of this map change, why aren't we also using kind of the 1 mile? Now, the 1 mile is for a municipality, right? But in this case, there's homes there. I mean, is that the equivalent of a municipality? I mean, is it the same kind of
Probably not.
goal in mind? Is to kind of avoid the disruption of residents?
I think generally the county is quite rural, and so that a municipality or a reference to a municipality's boundary is a good way to define where development starts and rural begins, and so that seemed to be the best way to find a bright line between the two. Again, the density out there is one house per either 5 acres or 50 acres, depending on which zone they're in. Most of it's one house per 50. So quite rural.
Okay.
Can I put my farmer hat on here quick?
Hey, Farmer
If I
Hat.
may. Phosphate's awful expensive, and so I think we need to recognize the positive things from this. If this can be used on farms, even though it's only 2 farms, they've got a lot of ground out there, and there's a lot of dirt, and a lot of those chemicals that we use are imported. So I think if we can be self-sufficient in some of this stuff, I would be for this product. I am concerned about the neighbors, and I don't know if there's a way that we can restrict this to the Class A or not. And I would make the motion that we postpone this until next time so we can get some more answers.
My question for you would be, it'd probably be helpful to know which answers you would like to come forward with.
Well, the Class A and being able to use the B and C there, if it's not written, it's not going to happen. And also, actually have a sample of the product. I'd like to see an analysis of how much phosphate is really in there, what the chemicals are, what the farmers are going to use. They obviously have hay and corn out there, so those are some of my questions.
At this point today, would it be messy for us to go back and revisit the definition and adjust it to include only Class A? Or is it better for that to come back?
No, I believe you have that option if it's something that you'd have to do that through a motion, and it's the majority of the planning commission would wish to revisit that. I believe we could revisit that item tonight.
Okay.
I'll look at my legal counsel to the right here to make sure I'm saying that right.
My motion died for lack of a second, so let's keep talking.
Well,
It hasn't necessarily died, we just haven't addressed it.
I would prefer opening it up and resolving that tonight.
I would too.
My thinking is that the permit is the change in the language we already have decided on is okay. The location is what's not okay. That's my take.
Yeah, because I feel like there's no guarantees. I mean, your word's probably true, but you're not going to be here, you know, in maybe 30 years, and the next person who's running that, it might fall into deaf ears when they're concerned and they're building something out there that's impacting people's property values, when they were assured that it wasn't going to be the case, and you're not even in the picture anymore. So. Yeah, I mean, that concerns me as well.
Yeah, it seems like a location.
If it was just 5 acres, like here, but the fact that there's 40 acres that can go any which way.
Well, to me, it's not just that. It's that there's homes right across the street, and whether they, hear to voice themselves or not, it seems like this kind of a facility ought to be in a place where there's, we have the 1 mile all around. I mean, that seems like a pretty good idea. It seems like we ought to kind of follow that ourselves in deciding this map change. And it just seems like we ought to find a place that's more rural. And then if people want to go build a house right next to this, let them do that on their own decision. But allowing them to build a potentially stinky operation. I know it's Class A you're talking about now, but it could be Class C when this business needs that change down the road. If we allow this permit here, we won't be able to stop it in the future. So my recommendation is that we do not make this map change.
Well, that's why I'm in favor of redefining it in 2.08 so that we limit it to the Class A material.
Yeah, and I agree that would be, we've already passed the definition, so rather than leaving the definition as it is and deciding whether or not to revisit the map, why don't we revisit the language, take care of the language to where it's something that we are more comfortable with, and then decide what to do with the map amendment.
The only thing is I'm looking there and I see composting operations, right? Now, I know the composting operations is what got us in trouble with the Pleasant Grove thing already, right? I mean, it was green waste composting that was causing the stink, a lot of it. So I don't know that solves the problem. If we allow this zone right across the street from someone's home, they're going to have composting right across the street. Now, I don't know, in an RA5, maybe on all RA5, you can compost to your heart's delight. I don't know. Can they? I guess they can.
Well, there's plenty of agricultural uses that
Agricultural.
would be deemed not pleasant to smell,
Right.
but allowed in the RA5 zone, so.
Well, I think it's interesting that the landowners aren't here.
Are you talking about the landowners for
The
the
houses
adjacent
across the
property?
street.
Houses.
Yeah, I mean, they're not here to express a concern. So maybe they're not concerned. I don't know if we can assume that, or they're just busy tonight. But this would seem to me, if I lived there, it would be a big issue for me.
Maybe we postpone and try and reach out to them.
They have been contacted.
I know they've been
Did
contacted.
they, do we have the file? Did they specifically receive? And the language of the notice is based on state statute that gives them appeal instructions. And I believe they can still provide a written appeal to the county commission within a certain prescribed period of time.
Mr. Chairman, to bring this to a head,
Yes.
may I make the motion that the Utah County, or I move that the Utah County Planning Commission recommend approval to the Utah County Commission of the proposed Utah County Land Use Ordinance text amendment updating water from requirements to section 6.04. Am I reading the right one?
No,
Okay,
That's a different one.
I was on the wrong page. Excuse me. Is that the right one?
it's the map. It's this one right here.
Okay, I'll just do it right here. Excuse me. Recommend that the Utah County Planning Commission recommend approval of the proposed amendment to the official Utah County zone map and Utah County general plan for parcels 6-1, 008, 0005, and 61005, 0009, currently designated as residential agriculture RA5 zone and mining and grazing -1 zone to be designated as public facilities zone based on the findings specified in this staff report under subsection 4.
I second the motion.
Prior to that vote, may I ask if the commission is interested in revisiting the definition after we take this vote? Anybody? You're
Yeah.
Absolutely.
okay. That affects how I feel about this. So.
Can I
Been
jump in
moved
for a
and
second?
seconded to accept the zoning and map change.
It may be appropriate since you'll be voting on a zone and a potential use in the zone that may be contemplated
To
differently.
go back and do the,
And so I think you could probably table this and table the motion, take another motion to go back to revisit your recommendation on the text amendment, if that's the wish of the majority, make any adjustments, and then come back, pick up where we're at now.
okay?
So
So let's do that. Let's table the motion and go back and entertain another motion.
Do we need to vote to table, or do we just decide to table?
We need to move.
I don't know.
Okay.
Vote to table?
I move that we table this motion until after the discussion on the previous item.
Okay. And second, and we'll start down here with the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes to table?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we're tabled, and we're now ready to discuss. We're entertaining a motion to the prior consideration, yeah?
I can make a motion, and then if anybody has
Okay.
any suggestions on any additional wording to put in here,
It's a motion to reconsider.
motion to reconsider. Okay, so I move that we reconsider the previous
Text
item,
amendment.
the text amendment. Need to add anything besides that?
No, it's the only one we've done so far.
Okay. So I move that we reconsider the text amendment.
Second?
Okay, moved and seconded to reconsider the text amendment. We'll start down here.
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So we're now reconsidering. Is there a motion on what we're reconsidering? You wanna, you were talking about maybe adding Class A? maybe?
Yes.
Okay, let's,
Adding
So
Class A.
can I
Yes.
help with that?
Please.
I would recommend that if you're wanting to add Class A, I think we could add a definition. That definition of a Class A biosolid as defined by the federal regulations, part 503 and C. And that way, that would be defined per federal regulation as a Class A biosolid. And then the location that you would want to add this in, because the handling of biosolids would be allowed by a governmental agency, I would probably recommend that it be added to C, the language being, if you want to, the storage and sales of Class A biosolids are prohibited, and so it basically allows it to, only the Class A biosolids can be stored and sold as per this definition, or as per this section.
Well, would that,
So we're not
because there are
amending the
other
ordinance- the definition?
kinds.
208.
Sorry.
So the definition of a biosolid would stay, the definition of a Class A biosolid would be added as defined by federal regulations. And then my recommendation, and you may want to change this, but under C, the storage and sale of Class A biosolids are prohibited under that section.
What if we were to just put it in the first line of 14, the handling, storage, and sales of Class A biosolids?
You could do
So
that.
that it's more compact, and there's no question that it does not include any of the other classifications.
Currently, the the treatment plant is handling biosolids that are not Class A as part of their treatment. So the handling of those biosolids is something that they're already doing on that site. If you wanted to, you could. I think it might be, and that's probably something that you probably want to address to the applicant, but if you wanted to add Class A biosolids there, you could. The storage and sales that they're wanting to do on this site is what what they're specifically wanting, and that would, by adding it just to subsection C, that would kind of limit the storage and sale of any biosolid based on that.
So I think what we're trying to do then is allow in this zone only Class A material.
Correct, but
And
they're
not,
already
not
handling.
biosolids, but only Class A biosolids.
But they're already using a public facility right now with A, B, and C.
I see.
Right,
In the
so-
county.
So,
Same
yeah, so the,
zone.
the
In the
treatment
county.
plant.
In the
treatment-
county, in a
Yeah, the
public
treatment plant
facility
handles
zone.
biosolids at the treatment plant currently. That's why that we specified it this way, so that only the storage and sale of biosolids would be allowed
Plot gets thicker.
outside of the sewage treatment plant specifically.
Okay.
But how are
I
those
understand
uses
what you're saying.
allowed? What zone are they in that allows that use?
Originally, they were permitted under a different zone, but when the PF zone was added, which TSSD was rezoned to that, that's the zone that allowed it. The
So they're in
biosolids,
the PF zone now,
they are. The facility is in the PF zone.
but that use isn't allowed in the PF zone with the list
It's
that we
part of a
just saw.
treatment plant. It's the use that's kind of part of a treatment plant. I think I understand what you're saying. Yes, you could specifically limit the handling of biosolids as contemplated like that. Just that the treatment plant is handling biosolids that are not specifically Class A at this point. And so the intent was to give a location where they could store and sell those biosolids without and still not limit their ability to handle biosolids at their existing facility. The interpretation of a sewage treatment plant could contemplate the handling of biosolids, but based on previous action by the commission, it contemplated that the composting of biosolids was not what they wanted in this place. So that's kind of why this was crafted this way. But I understand what you're saying, and I agree with what your intent is. And if you feel like that you want to add that under 14, you could potentially do that. And the conditional use under which TSSD operates still could contemplate the handling of biosolids as part of a sewage treatment plant. That they're
But if we
conditionally-
make the change, are we making those existing sites, they'll be non-compliant?
That's why I would limit it to C. That's why I wanted to make it only under C.
Is there any sort of definition for a biosolids handling facility, which is what I think we're doing here?
No, there's not a definition for a biosolid handling facility. I think
Or
that-
storage,
that-
sorry,
yeah,
storage.
sorry.
What
Yeah,
are we
so-
calling this place?
Yeah, so the storage and sale is that's what this is contemplating. That's why we're adding this language, is so that they had a facility where they could store and sell it.
So do we need to, well, I'm wondering here, make a distinction between this type of facility and a wastewater treatment facility which handles all the kinds of biosolids?
That's kind of why I wrote the 14, so that if you're handling biosolids, you have to be a government or a facility owned by and operated by a governmental facility or entity, and the material must originate. A is kind of the idea that if you are handling biosolids, you have to be either a governmental agency to do that, and that the biosolids have to originate from the treatment plant. And then C contemplates when you store and sell those, there is the additional limitation on distance.
I see.
So you're suggesting adding the language in 14C?
Just the so the Class A biosolids are only allowed to be sold and stored on sites. The handling of biosolids as part of like a sewage treatment plant would be allowed, kind of to recognize that use as a part of a sewage treatment plant.
Okay.
So how would that work then? Because it's, I like the 1 mile restriction. Are we then going to say that Class B and C products can be closer than a mile?
Right, so if that's the case, then TSSD would be in violation. Well, they're under a conditional use, but they would be non-compliant with that section because they're handling biosolids within a mile of a municipal boundary, is what I'm saying.
But you're suggesting the language just say Class A in subparagraph C.
Right, that would be only for the sale and storage.
Because storage and sales would not apply to all other classifications of biosolids because they are in the handling and the processing phase, not the storage.
Correct, yeah, they're handling biosolids as part of their sewage treatment plant, but they would not be allowed to store or sell those at the sewage treatment plant. The location for which they want to store or sell those would have to be at least a mile away from the city boundary.
Because as sewage is processed and you get to these phases of biosolids, either you're taking it into this composting realm where you're going to turn it into compost, or you're discharging it elsewhere. Is that correct?
They probably can address that a little bit better than I can. I'm not super familiar with that. But my understanding is that they handle biosolids at their facility, but they are not allowed to store or sell those. And this is the reason that they're trying to add this use and add an area where they could do this.
Okay.
How do you store and sell biosolids without handling it?
So you can handle, so sorry, I know this is the nerdy side of planning, but the handling and storage and sales is the use. In order to handle, you have to meet A and B, A, B, and C. Well, sorry, you have to meet A and B. In order to sell or store, you have to meet A, B, and C. So the idea is that the handling, storage, and sale of biosolids have to meet all of the following. And that is A, B, and C, but if you're in C is only designated as the storage and sale. So it doesn't apply to handling. And if you want me to clarify that in different language, I can do that. But that was the intent of the language.
And handling being synonymous to processing, similar to shipping and handling.
Yeah, I think, yeah, so I'm not as familiar as the applicant is with handling, and maybe they can address that. Maybe they don't have an issue with that, but that was the intent of the discussions that we had. And so it might be advantageous to kind of discuss that, or to ask those questions to the applicant about handling of biosolids.
Mm-hmm. Would you like to involve the applicant?
Would you like to try to clear some of that up for us?
The sludge, the handling of sludge.
I'm not the lawyer and understand shipping and handling, so I don't know if I can answer that part of the question. I was, should have asked our attorney to be here to understand that. I understand what we're trying to do here, and I appreciate that, and to restrict it to the Class A biosolids, and I don't know how you store and sell it without handling it. I don't know how that's possible, but I don't know the technical, legal definition of handling. I'm at a loss.
Sure. I guess the question would be, do you handle biosolids at your at your?
Again, what's the definition of handling? That's like, what is? You know, I don't, we process it, goes through our machines. We don't grab it with our hands and
Right, I guess,
shove.
yeah, so I guess the question would be, do you have biosolids outside of this, the treatment process that you handle on the facility currently?
We put it in trucks and ship it out. So,
Once the Class A is developed, is
well,
that?
currently it's unclassified, so we're handling that. But I guess the question, let me clarify your question. Are you asking, once it's a Class A biosolids, what's that process look like?
I guess the question would be more specifically, so you are, based on my understanding, since you don't produce Class A biosolids, you are handling biosolids to ship them out.
That is correct.
Once the facility is complete and produces Class A biosolids, are there any biosolids that will be handled or shipped out that are not Class A?
The answer is yes, because the process isn't foolproof 100%. So there will be a Class B biosolids that is likely our safety outlet, and then that would be shipped and hauled off to a landfill.
Okay. So that's the reason why I separated the handling of biosolids so that it would be allowed at the TSSD facility, and the storage and sales was separated so that there were restrictions specifically for the storage and sale. So that way it would not prevent them from handling biosolids that are not Class A. In this case, if it were not processed to the level of Class A, they could ship it off to the landfill or whatever, and they would be handling it without violating any ordinance requirements, where in order for them to sell or store them, they would have to be located on a site with farther than a mile away from the city.
So anything that was not Class A would be either not present or temporarily present at the facility. Would that be correct?
What is temporary? It's
definitions
it's to our advantage to get it off our site as quick as possible. If not, it degrades and creates odor. If it's in our plant, that's part of the problem we have currently right now. Landfills are closed on Sundays, half a day on Saturday, and they don't take as much loads on Friday. So they mix it with garbage, and so that's the process of us doing the landfill. So when I would say, if I could define temporary as less than a week, that would give me elbow room. 3 days would be kind of allow me to handle that and move it along and get it out of our facility, because we don't like it around there. Our neighbors don't like it as odor, and we're trying to remove all that, and I'm trying to be a good neighbor and remove all that scenario through this. This is going to take us 5 years to go through this process to build this. We're just barely beginning construction the December 2nd of this year. So it's going to be a process for us to get this all done, as you can imagine. Hopefully you can understand that it takes time to build things. So.
Are you in the city now, where it's located? It's county?
No, we are in Utah County, an incorporated area. So American Fork surrounds us.
Are you
and
processing this nasty stuff in the middle of the cities on county land?
That is correct.
So, yeah, that's my
'Cause it
concern,
was-
is we don't want to create something here that all of a sudden makes you non-compliant.
That is correct. And I do appreciate Greg thinking this through, because I did not draw this as we're currently on the PF zone right now. All I was thinking about was this, and so I appreciate Greg thinking this through a little bit more in detail. And so I can see where he's saying that the part C of this is talking about the sale, storage of Class A biosolids, which would limit this area to that. This, if we're going to be using it for cells and storage. So,
I'm sorry, I'm thinking out loud here, I apologize. So all we're doing here is we're adding another permitted use. We're not taking away any uses, we're gonna add a permitted use. And that permitted use is gonna allow you to store the material on this 40 acres on the south end of Utah Lake. And as I read this, so we define biosolid as these things, and then we say handling, or I think we got to get rid of handling.
Sure, yeah, I'm open, I'm fine.
So the following is permitted in this zone. This is the new use with the standards and requirements set forth in this ordinance 14. So the storage and sales of biosolids subject to all the following. So it's got to be owned or operated by a government entity, and it must originate from a sewage treatment facility that's owned and operated by a governmental entity. And the storage and sales of biosolids are prohibited within 1 mile of a municipality. So it's got to be at least, this storage facility's got to be at least 1 mile from city boundaries. And you're suggesting we put in there the storage and sales of Class A biosolids?
It's up to you, but my recommendation, if you're wanting to limit Class A to this area, it would be through the storage and sales. What they're intending to do is a storage and sale. So that's why I think in C it would only be apply to the storage and sales. The handling doesn't have the 1 mile requirement based on the way that is written. At least that's the way I interpret it. And I know that the language can always be improved. If you have suggestions to improve it, I'm happy to hear those.
It seems like we're trying to make an ordinance change for this property versus, right? To me, my problem is still the location seems to be the problem, not the permit that we've already talked about, because they're already doing most of this stuff. They started doing it before people lived right next to it. I mean, at the current district location where you're doing the sewer treatment, we didn't build a sewer treatment next to a resident. But people might be out there now, but they did that on their own decision, right? I mean, after it was already there. So it seems to me that the real issue is we're allowing a use with residences right next to it. That the location is the problem, not the permitted use.
Unless we're able to adjust the permitted use to mitigate any negative impact on anyone in close proximity.
But we already
Which
said
is
that the
what we're
permitted
trying to
use
do
allows
here.
composting.
Of green waste only.
Green waste.
Yep.
If you feel like the better solution would be to add Class A biosolids under 14, that covers all of it, the handling, storage, and sales. I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to create a situation where TSSD is not able to handle biosolids at their facility as it currently exists.
See, that's why I'm more inclined to change the definition. But I think the concern is if we change it to a PF zone, then a waste treatment facility could be built out there one day because it's an allowed use now.
I am sure that might be possible. I would bet that they probably have an opinion on the access to water and on other requirements that they're needed for a site to be developed in this location. I mean, you're right, that's a possibility. It's still a conditional use. It would still have to come to the planning commission in order to get approval.
The waste treatment plant is a conditional use?
Yeah.
Correct.
If you pull that back up again, Bryce, sorry.
Oh, yeah,
one
it
more
was in
time.
B, wasn't it?
One more
Yes,
time. It was in a B,
it
yeah.
was.
Yeah, it was in subsection B. Okay. I personally don't have a problem with this use on this piece of property. Giving credibility to the applicant for his testimony that doesn't stink. And I've had some exposure to it, and that's been my experience also.
So as a reminder, you're also next to a dairy. So if you're worried about smells,
And dairies have them.
I'm guessing that the Class A biosolids have less odor than a dairy does.
Yeah, my neighbor puts his material from his cows on the pastures every year, and we have a month of flies and smell from it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this,
I don't think we get that from the.
Sure.
So what if we just change the definition in 2.08 to say, Class A biosolid is, or maybe just say Class A grade dried municipal biosolid. That's the term. And then we say it's a product of wastewater treatment, and then when that's gonna be real messy, isn't it? So it's gotta be built in behind biosolid. Biosolid is a Class A grade dried municipal product of the wastewater treatment plant. And then when we come down to 12B or to 14 here, the storage and sales of biosolids, it's only gonna be Class A.
the definition could be, yeah, so I would, you can modify the definition. You can also just add Class A, and then you have that definition of Class A based on federal regulation. If you want to limit all biosolids, the storage, sale, and handling, then you would just add Class A biosolids. I think we're accomplishing the same thing. If you do that, if you want to add biosolids under, or Class A biosolids under 14, that would cover every.
But there's no definition of Class A. We don't know what Class A
Right,
is.
that's why I suggested
back to
adding
federal.
a definition for Class A biosolids as defined by federal
As a sub.
regulations 503.
Can we postpone this and have you come back with revised language with Class A for next meeting?
Sure, do you
is that
want
a
to give me
proposal?
direction on where
we
you
could
want it
make?
to be?
I think that'd be good. I mean, I think we've got an idea of what we're trying to accomplish here. We just need some finessing to make sure that we're not
Sure.
putting language into here that is overly restrictive or doesn't accomplish the end goal.
Or puts their current use in jeopardy, right?
Right. Being mindful of the other uses in other areas of the same zone.
So we're reconsidering, we don't have, I guess, for, as far as a motion, should we have a motion to send this back to staff?
Can I just ask a question to the audience members that don't support it? Can somebody come up and ask my question? Because, I mean,
The Stedmans are,
yeah, the Stedman, you talked about, and I'm just curious, I just want this in context. So and I don't know this area, and when you're in an area, you have, I mean, like there's obviously areas where I live where there's key places, but something that I noted was you talked about there being like a county road intersecting a state road.
Right.
So to me, that kind of stood out. Like, that seems like even in the future, that could be a significant, I don't know, is that like, does that stand out in terms of your
Yeah, I think it'll
community?
be a main road eventually, soon, the way it's been going. They've been widening it, and they've got a lot of, they paved part of it over in Cedar Valley that goes over through up to Eagle Mountain. And so it'll be coming through, there's certain things, conditions on the solar farm, as it comes over in onto the Meseta side, they're gonna have to do more road stuff. And so that'll be bigger. that house that's right across the street, those homes have water wells on them that are right there close to that. You know, you figure 300 feet or whatever it is. So you've also got water wells that I worry about contamination if anything went through the soil and went down. That may not be an option, I mean, an issue, but it's something I would question. And things are growing out there. And the Bateman's Farm, they have tons of kids. They're building houses on their place all the time. Yeah, right now it's all farming, ranching, but it's developing and it's coming along.
But that intersection seems fairly significant.
Yeah,
That could
it
be
is.
that could be a significant locality.
It's going to be a main road. Yeah, it is. Well, it's a county road. It gets a lot of travel on now, and it's dirt most of the way. Say half of it.
Thank you.
Okay,
I move that we return this item to staff for reconsideration of the language of the text amendment and included definitions to be brought back to the commission at a future date.
Let's do a date certain. I think
Okay,
the
what's a good
terminology would be
date?
continue it to the next
continue
meeting.
to next meeting.
Because
Okay.
so people know when the meeting's gonna be, so we don't have to renotice.
Okay,
To next
then
meeting.
to be continued to the January 21st Planning Commission meeting.
Can I suggest that we also re-notify those residences?
That would probably required.
I'll
Required?
second
Is that
it.
required?
No.
It's not required, but
Okay.
can I suggest that we do that for at least those two that are right there?
Sure.
Okay.
So
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, moved and seconded. We'll start down here with Commissioner Davis.
Yes.
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 So I'm not clear what the motion is.
Okay.
Is the suggested part of the motion, or is that suggested after the motion? The suggested that they renotice
Oh,
applicants.
his part.
Yeah.
Is that
I'm
part of the
okay with
motion?
Karen's motion.
Yeah, you want
I
to?
didn't know
can
if it was
amend the
modified by your
motion.
comments.
Yes, we should ask you if that was a friendly amendment to your motion.
I will amend my motion to include a request to staff to re-notify adjacent property owners prior to the meeting on the 21st.
all adjacent property owners,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Okay, we'll vote again.
Yes.
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 Okay. And that's, I would say, do we need to also vote on then the map change in the same
Yes.
way?
Yes.
Do the same motion.
We do the same motion?
We didn't.
We didn't vote on the map
Map's got
change.
a
We tabled it, actually.
standing, yeah, it's got a
Yep,
standing
till
motion.
after the discussion.
Do we need to do
which-
anything with it since we've tabled it
Table is not
Yeah, table assumes
indefinite.
it's coming back in this meeting,
in this meeting?
so I think we need to.
Okay,
clarify.
so we should untable it if we can, and
The motion was to table it till after the discussion had concluded, which is where we're at in this portion of the
okay.
meeting, so it comes forward. Is that right?
right? Is there a motion on the map and, what is it, map and boundary change?
Zone map and zone plan
Zoning,
amendment.
map and zoning
I move that the
amendment.
zone map and boundary change be continued until the next planning commission meeting on January 21, 2025.
Okay, so
I'll
to
second.
postpone the decision on this, on the map and zone change till the
Yes,
January
postpone the decision
Okay.
and move it to January 21st.
Okay, that's been moved and seconded, yes? Okay, we'll start down there with you, Greg. Or Brother, Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Yes? Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, thanks. So we're pushing both of those till the next meeting with, hopefully with an update from staff. So we'll see some of you again next month, I guess. We still have another item here, the Utah County Planning Commission proposed Utah County Land Use Ordinance Text Amendment, Section 6.04.
Yes,
We
we'll
have
have
our
a
conditional use
staff
then.
presentation on that. Greg will present that.
Okay?
So this item is coming before you. This section of code is dealing with a condition when people are obtaining a building permit and they are adding a new connection to water, that they are required to sign a disclaimer or waiver that notifies them of adjudication that is happening with water rights, and that if any of those water rights are affected, they're noticed that they would have to replace them based on the determination. If they are losing any domestic water rights, they would have to replace those in order to maintain a dwelling. The amendment that we're looking at is added to exception number 2. This exception is intended to speed up the process so that it's not going to be required for people that are connecting to a public water system or a special service district. The intent is that public water systems or municipal water systems are not going to be affected in the way that a private water right would be that is maintained for a development or a dwelling. So this is just to speed up the process of kind of getting them through the building permit process. Also saves them some cost in having to record a document that has that waiver. Other than that, there's not a lot of other things that it's doing other than that. If you have questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
So just to clarify, this is another carve out. You must do this unless you've got a remodel going on or unless you're going to hook up to a municipal system.
Correct. So the county commission asked that we look at this, this is a couple years ago, and add a requirement for a disclaimer. There was a lot of discussion by the county commission in developing this. The exception that was added in 1 was requested by one of the county commissioners. This exception is prompted by staff noticing that this is an unnecessary step for people that are connecting to a public water system or a special service district, because they don't operate in the same way a well would or a specific water right issued by the state would. And that's why this exception is being added.
Just to clarify, that's a municipal water system, not just a public water system. Greg mentioned public, and
Correct, sorry. My mistake.
it's hard to, it's easy to interchange those, but this exception would be for a home or a use that is obtain their water supply from a municipal water system or a special service district water system.
If they obtain their potable water from a municipal water system, can they also get water from a well? I mean, can they do both? And would this?
If they
Generally, no. I mean, it's usually their piping's usually hooked up to one source or the other.
Or the other, usually.
So typically what's allowed is you can't be connected to the same source at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
So you're either connected to the well or municipal supply, and there has to be a method to prevent that water from getting back into the municipal supply. I wonder if it should also be added, not just municipal supply, but a state-approved municipal supply. I mean, the state has definitions of water systems and, public water systems and stuff like that. Or maybe we add wording to something that aligns with the wording of the state-approved water systems and stuff. I don't know.
So just there on the second line down, just put in there from a state-approved municipal water system is what you're suggesting?
Something like that.
Does the state approve all of the, for example, city's water system? I would think that if the city has a water system, then it's going to be approved.
So yeah, so I'm sure that Sullivan can probably explain this much better than I can, but they do approve every municipal water system, but those approvals can be, they have to test water, and if they fail any of those tests, there are requirements that they fix those. If they fail, then obviously their approval could be in jeopardy, but I'm sure that Sullivan can probably.
Yeah, there's several different types of water systems. There's community water systems that might serve a smaller population. It could be a transient population as well. Those are approved water systems, and they do have to follow criteria. Based on your number of connections, it could be a different classification of a water system. All of those state-approved water systems have to follow strict guidelines for monitoring, testing the water, making sure it's safe for
But they're
consumption.
state approved.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So your proposal then is after from A, you'd put from a state-approved municipal water system and just insert state-approved.
Can I
So-
make my
so
motion
that-
again,
Is Mr.
Mr. Chairman?
We
only got
have a
halfway
public
through
hearing on
before.
this one.
Pardon me?
We have to have a public hearing
Oh.
on this one.
Do I need to make a motion to open it up for public
No,
comment?
we're still.
We're still in?
Mhm. Yeah, I think we're still in the public hearing right now.
Yeah, we never closed it.
Is a motion in order then, Mr. Chairman?
I think, is it to change the language, or is it to vote
No,
on it?
just to recommend approval without change is what I would suggest, that I would make that, I would move for that.
Motion
I think we need to invite the public to
We
speak.
invite the public to speak first as well.
Since it's a public hearing,
Yeah.
if anyone's interested. or-
Is there anyone here that would like to speak to this ordinance text amendment related to water? Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion.
Quick question. I just want to make sure that it's okay with the staff, because the whole purpose of this is to kind of make sure we don't have knots and boondoggles in the process. And if we add that language, is that going to create that problem?
So I guess the question would be, is that the state-approved status, is that readily obtainable? Because we'll have a building permit come in, and the person's gonna say, hey, my hookup is Spanish Fork City. And, so we don't have to provide this, and that eliminates a step in their permitting process. If they say that Spanish Fork City, then the staff would need to, verify that that's a state-approved municipal system. I guess we could have a master list on hand, but we don't know what the current status is. So
Yeah, I mean,
layer of review.
you can go onto the state website, and if you know where you're going to hook up, connect, like Spanish Fork, you can type that in, and it'll tell you their approval.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, and a state-approved system, if they're not state-approved, I don't know that they can legally sell you water. I mean, I guess through a gentleman's agreement, they could do something, but it wouldn't be a state-approved situation.
Yeah, we do have several properties out in the county that do have city connections.
Yeah.
And so,
If I recall, this all kind of stemmed from the Hubble Creek
yes,
Canyon problem for background for those that may not know is Hobble Creek. They began issuing building permits to lots that didn't have a legal right to water. And the state came down and just says, we're going to enforce the water rights. And if those lots don't have a legal right, then sorry, but they're not going to have water. And so it was an attempt to try to get new construction to prove they had a beneficial use to water and stuff like that. So
I think most importantly, it's to put property owners on notice that their water right is subject to an ongoing adjudication, which may result in the diminishment of their water right.
So that's going to be an easy check.
I think so, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, shouldn't be a problem at all.
Call him if you want to check it.
Right, I'll do that. The health department will also review this, and they have a list of those that would be approved as well.
That's true.
You ready, Mr.
Yes,
Chairman?
I'm ready.
Okay. I would move that the Utah County Planning Commission recommend approval to the Utah County Commission of the proposed Utah Land Use Ordinance text amendment updating water from requirements to section 6.04 with the addition of the water source supply from a state-approved municipal water system.
I'll second that.
Okay. Start down here with Commissioner Davis this time.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, that's been passed unanimously as a recommendation to the Utah County Commission. Next on the agenda is proposed county land use ordinance text amendment, chapters 2, 14, and any other applicable sections relating to bonding requirements.
Xiao Dong of our office will give the presentation.
Oh,
That's me, yeah. So good evening, everyone. So tonight I'm gonna present update to the Utah County Land Use Ordinance to ensure.
Could you pull the
compliance.
mic down in front of you a little bit?
I think I can speak loudly.
Put it on the, there you go.
Sure. Okay, so tonight I'm gonna present the updates to the Utah County Land Use Ordinance to ensure compliance with recent changes in the state code regarding bonding requirements and subdivision definitions. So the state legislature has made key updates that impact our county land use ordinance, including improvement completion assurance, improvement warranty, the required amount for improvement completion assurance, 110%. So including 100% of the estimated cost of required improvement and 10% for administrative cost, and clarifying the definition of the subdivision. So to align with this state code updates, we propose the following change to our ordinance. So the first, we're gonna add definition for improvement completion assurance and improvement warranty. And secondly, we will refine the existing subdivision definition for clarify and compliance. And the third, we'll add a new definition for subdivision amendment because right now we don't have that under our definition section. And the fourth one, we will replace the term construction bond, which we currently use, with improvement completion assurance and replace warranty bond with improvement warranty. Lastly, we will adjust the bonding requirement to 110% to match state code. This update will ensure consistency with state code and state terminology and reduce the risk of the non-compliance. At this point, I'd like to open it up to the Commission for any concerns or feedback or comments regarding those, proposed change to, comply with the state code updates. Thank you.
have we made, with our changes, have we made it more restrictive than the state requires by any of the language?
No, this is
We're just
matching state requirements.
We're just complying with state
Yeah.
requirements
Yeah, we're just
to make this wording change.
Correct.
Yeah, that's correct.
And we haven't added any additional,
No.
requirements of our own. Okay.
No.
Any,
I thought it was a great way to do it. Just throw it, tie us right to the code.
Sure.
Go see this, go see this.
Okay, thank you.
Just a
Thank you, Commissioner.
quick question, if I may.
I like
Just
that.
Comments, yes.
I guess I've always, bonds are, I can understand the bond. So an improvement warranty,
Yes.
is that equivalent to a bond then?
Improvement warranty is equal to the warranty bond, what we use right now. So that is 10%. And improvement completion assurance, that is equal to construction bond. So currently, our amount of that is 125%. So we adjust 125% to 110%. Does that make sense?
So also to follow up on that, yes, the bonding is very similar. The warranty is, the state defined that a specific way. In the way that it's going to work probably with the county, it's going to operate very similar to what we have now, but their definition is, I personally, I think it's going to be problematic in the future, but the way that it's defined is compatible with the way that we're using it. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for? Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Is there, public hearing on this one as well, right? Yes. Is there anyone from our public that would like to address the commission on this topic? Greg, no? Okay. Okay, is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that the Utah County Planning Commission recommend approval to the Utah County Commission of the proposed text amendments to the Utah County Land Use Ordinance text amendment updating subdivision approval requirements to chapters and sections 2.08 and 14.04, along with any applicable renumbering and reformatting in each section based on the findings listed in section 5 of the staff report.
I'll second it.
Seconded. We'll just start with Commissioner Davis again.
Yes.
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 Okay, that passed unanimously. Thank you. Now, we've already handled section in our agenda E1, so we're going to move to F1. Does this require a public hearing?
Does not.
Does not. Should we close our public hearing before we consider these next two? Okay.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded to close our public hearing. We'll start down here, though. Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
to close the public hearing.
Yes.
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 Public hearing is now closed. We will now consider the Pinyon Creek Solar LLC application for conditional use.
Commissioner, I need to recuse myself from this. I've got a conflict.
Okay, one. Thank you.
Okay. So this item is a conditional use request for a utility scale solar power plant. The applicant has an approved area exist currently. This map kind of shows the area that it's located in. It's out near Alberta. The area has already been approved for conditional use, and the next item following this is a request to extend the approval for that existing approval.
So the
site
dark blue is approved,
the dark
and we're
blue-
considering the light blue? Is that what I?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep. So the light blue area is the new request. That is a parcel that is adjacent to the existing approval. It has Alberta Slant Road going through that location. And the use is not, based on their request, the use is not changing. It's similar, it's just area being added to this facility. There's not a lot to add to this. It's the existing facility is about 2,800 acres, and this is adding an additional 320 acres to that facility. They intend to have the panels, this is the photovoltaic, I'm trying to avoid saying that because I'm going to get tongue-tied every time I say it. So the solar panels, they are also intending to have a battery storage system with this facility that has also already been approved as per the previous conditional uses. If you have any questions about the existing use, so just to follow up, the termination date that was identified in the staff report, I neglected to update that. They are requesting that the termination date be December 17th, 2028. And just to kind of discuss the next item, that's the same date that they're requesting the extension to be, so they match, the facility matches on their expiration date.
Just to, on this map, the parcel we were talking about just earlier, is it just to the top right corner of that blue? Yeah,
It
it's right
is.
there, right
Yes,
there, right there.
that's correct.
Okay, just want to,
So as you can see, there are more areas that are going to be excluded from residential uses. So, and not only that, but the area that's surrounding that facility also has a solar facility approval. So there are even fewer houses that are going to be around that facility, just for future reference. So the only other condition that I neglected to update completely was on the condition number 9. That was a placeholder to discuss with Public Works the intent to try or to have the dedication of Alberta Slant Road done in order to match up with the dedications that were recently done by the LDS Church for Alberta Slant Road. So that they did want to include a request or a condition for the dedication of Alberta Slant Road as part of this approval. Other than that, those are the conditions identified are similar to the existing approval for appeals 1613 and 1614. The applicant is here to discuss this agenda item. If you have any questions for them, I'm sure they'll be happy to answer those for you.
any questions for staff before we have the applicant speak?
Well, and maybe you've addressed this, but so you've cleared with Public Works any intentions and need for expansion of the Alberta Slant Road to be incorporated into this change and reserve that property for them or whatever? Or?
Right, as a condition of the approval, the Public Works would like to get the dedication of that. If you see, it's hard to tell, but on this map, if you can go to the next.
I can see Santa right there. I don't,
Right, so Alberta Slant, I don't know if I have a
roller coaster or
closer one, but
something,
Alberta
so-
Slant Road, as you can see, there's dedication of that road. The area that's this conditional use is on is missing that dedication, and they want to ensure that that dedication goes through that property. That is, I didn't get an updated site map of their facility that shows the inclusion of this was the map that
this
was
is
kind
the
of included in there.
prior approved or whatever.
Yep. Correct.
Okay, is the applicant ready to?
All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Thank you so much for having us here. I'm Jamie Armoff. I'm a Senior Manager of Project Development at DESRI, and we're here on behalf of the Pinyon Creek Solar and Storage Project. We brought this to the Board of Adjustment about a year and a half ago in spring 2023 for approval, and we've since added this parcel of approximately 320 acres. Just a little bit of background on who we are as DESRI. We are an owner, operator, and developer of renewable energy projects founded in 2010, building projects across the country, but we are the largest private developer of solar in the state of Utah. I think we have about 9 projects totaling 715 megawatts across the state, though this is our first project in Utah County. And we're one of the top 5 largest pure-play renewable energy IPPs, independent power producers in the U.S., with over 9 gigawatts of contracted generation around the country. So about the Pinyon Creek project, just a quick overview. As it was previously approved in an earlier application a couple years ago, it's a 398 megawatt solar and 149 megawatt battery storage facility. It's located off of State Route 68, north of Alberta, right by the Bayview landfill, as you saw. And it has an executed interconnection agreement with Pacificor to tap a 345 kV line that runs through the center of the project. So since we last brought this project to the county, we've made significant progress in project development. One of the key items that we've brought is we've worked with the county, Nebo School District, and the Central Utah Water Conservation District to achieve a tax incentive financing for the project. We've also signed this lease for additional acreage. We were previously in interconnection studies with PacifiCorp. We now have an interconnection agreement with set milestones that they are to achieve under our agreement. We've conducted mineral ownership research and have been working on that outreach. We've flown site topography. We've completed a full suite of environmental studies as well as preliminary geotech work on the site. Our primary consideration should we just focus on the one parcel for now, or should I touch on the extension while I'm up here? Great. So we are frequently in conversation with PacifiCorp, who is the transmission provider in this area, about our project timeline, and this is why we're here for the extension. We have this agreement now in place where our project is expected, according to the agreement, to be online at the end of 2027. That's the earliest that they will commit to. Given the track record that we've seen, we expect that this is going to be further pushed out, which is why that we have requested this extension to the end of December 2028. We are extremely hopeful and certainly doing everything in our power to not have that happen. We're working with PacifiCorp frequently to ensure that we're aligned on milestones and keeping the project moving forward. But that's essentially why we're asking for this extension, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have about the project.
Does this power stay local?
So technically, the way that the grid works is that the power is going to go to the place of least resistance. It's going to be distributed locally because of the mechanics of the energy.
Help me understand this Alberta Slant Road dedication. So that goes through the corner of this piece. So does that mean that road will go through there? Is that going to cause you a problem?
I don't think that would be an issue for our project.
So just to clarify, Alberta Slant Road is a public road currently. They would have to be set back a distance from that road based on current requirements. And they wouldn't be able to build over that road as it's currently a public road. So just to clarify, this is just to obtain the dedication so that it's maintained and operated by the county.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any further discussion, Commission?
It's your turn. Someone missed out.
Let me, if I could ask a question, not that I wish any bad will on any facilities, any projects, but it does mention that
The cleanup.
if it was abandoned for more than 1 year, all structure would be removed. Is there bonding in place? What's the financial
Yep.
guarantee that that would happen?
Right, so that's what item 6 is, or the condition on item 6 would be required. They would be required to have some kind of assurance or provide a way for the financial resources to be available to remove all structures from the site and restore that to the condition as it existed prior to the development of that facility.
Is that plan, who monitors that plan or who develops that plan? Is it on approval of the permits or whatever? Or?
So that would have to be in place prior to issuance of any permits. The facility, there's a facility, the only facility we have currently being developed, they were required to have some assurity in place that was approved by the county commission in order to ensure that that was available to remove any improvements.
Well, thank you.
Did we already talk about number 10, the termination date, that being today? Is that today?
Sorry,
Yeah.
that was my mistake in not updating that because I hadn't reviewed or hadn't found they were submitting to request the additional time on the previous approvals, and so I was waiting to hear what their request was. The request is for that date to be 2028.
Okay, I thought that's what she had said, but
December 17th, 2028 or 31st?
That's generally what we do, is do it off of the date of the approval. So the number of years
Got it.
based on the date of the approval.
28.
does number 9 need to have a full sentence?
Correct. That was because I wasn't able to get the feedback in time for the staff report, but the language would be that the dedication of Alberta Slant Road within the boundaries of this approval area would need to be dedicated to the county.
Okay, thanks.
Sure. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion? It's easy for me to say that.
I'll make the motion then if.
Okay.
Am I, okay. I thought, hopefully I'm on the right page here. Page 39?
39.
Okay,
yes.
good, I'm verified. Okay, that the Utah County Planning Commission approve conditional use application CU 2024-04, a conditional use request for a solar energy facility as an electrical power generation plant, subject to staff findings, including in section 4 of the staff report and the following conditions, which I will not read, listed 1 through 10, with number 9 being the Alberta Slant Road dedication would need to be approved. And the date would be December 17th of 2028. That work, Greg? Yeah. Okay.
That
That's my move. I move that.
I'll second that.
Okay, moved and seconded. We'll start with Commissioner Davis. We got a yes?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
And all, either way, okay. We're unanimous, those that were in voting, okay. Okay, we've got
Their last item?
one more, is it one more Pinyon Creek? Or is it, or did we
Yeah,
do both of those?
just you have to officially extend the previous 2 appeals termination date.
For the,
I think
the
we
dates on
discussed
the
it,
previous
so,
2 appeals, yep. Okay, so this is item number 2 on conditional use applications. Do we need to, do we have a staff report on that or anything?
Yeah, so it was just a request that the extension date from, which was 2026, be extended to 2028 of December 17th, 2028. It was requested by the applicant,
Okay,
meeting all the same conditions of approval that were approved under that conditional use.
Okay.
see the same write-up, but
It's not written anymore.
it's not written, okay? Is there a motion? Is there discussion?
I guess we just move to extend the termination date for the conditional uses for Pinyon Creek Solar to December 17th, 2028. Does that suffice?
Just specify the appeal numbers, would it be helpful?
Okay, appeal number 1613 and 1614.
Thank you.
I think we also need to include the previous conditions of approval.
Okay, amend my motion to include the previous conditions of approval outlined in the application for the request to amend the approvals for Indian Creek Solar. Not sure, the previous item.
Sounded good to me. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend the expiration date. And is it just for appeals 1613 and 1614?
Correct.
Okay. With the prior
Conditions of approval.
conditional requirements, right?
Yes. Previously approved conditions of approval.
Previously approved conditions of approval.
Your Piper picked a
Okay.
pack of.
And we'll start,
Yes.
Yes.
yes?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, we've got an extension. Now, in this case, that's we're the final.
Yes,
We're the
yes,
final
you
body
are
on
the
that one,
land
so
use
we do have
authority.
an extension. Congratulations. Okay. So now we are at other business resolution, adopting the annual meeting schedule for the Utah Planning Commission for 2025.
We want to make sure we're meeting next year.
So we just followed the similar path of the third Tuesday of each month. You're always free to change that up, but you guys have already committed yourself to a January meeting, so.
Okay, so we've got the dates. Do you have the dates in front of you, commissioners? We've got January 21st, February 18th, and so on.
Who's to know? Like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, because
Okay,
we don't know. I mean,
I think it's great as long as we get notified. It will be all right. Okay, any discussion or debate on this topic? Okay,
If there's no debate, no questions, I move that we approve the resolution adopting the annual meeting schedule for the Utah County Planning Commission for the calendar year 2025.
Second?
it's been moved and seconded to adopt the dates that we have in front of us. We'll start down here with Commissioner.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Aye.
yes.
Okay, those are adopted. And is there anything else? And if not,
No, other than happy holidays, we have some treats back there to
Okay.
kind of send you on your way, and just thanks for all your great work. You should be getting your big paycheck in the mail soon.